Welcome to She Lives, where magic and mystery become the blueprint and path to creating a new reality, deeply rooted in the essence of your soul. Join me as we hear, feel, and see through lenses and senses of intuitive wisdom and soul-based leadership. This is the She Lives podcast. Episode 1. The Story Beyond the Story. Hello, my name is Hazel Evans and this is the She Lives podcast. In this first episode, you will join me as we delve into the story and the journey behind this podcast. What it has taken me to get to this triumphant point today to launch this first ever episode, and I'm delighted to be sharing it with you. Today you will discover why this podcast is called She Lives and what's in it for you. Because in my podcasts, I want to offer you invitations for you to receive inspiration regarding the importance of your own life story and how to reap the gold of your own life journey. Because my deepest desire is for the expression that I share to spark inspiration in you, because your story matters. Your life is your own masterpiece, and we are here together to turn life stories into gold. Remembering who you truly are, your soul purpose, and being present here today so we can carve a greater path for tomorrow together. So, what has creation, art, sensuality, and living your soul purpose got to do with anything? Let's dive straight in. Let's tell it how it is through the portal of the open heart and profound guidance of the vibration of love itself that takes no prisoners. My podcast will be authentic and unscripted, raw, challenging on the edges of consciousness to inspire human evolution to springboard to the next levels of soul-led leadership. I will deliver with the essence of my passion for life, so the expression of my soul can jump out of these words and give you a transmission to inspire you, your heart and your life as you are walking the path of magnificent you. So I am living and breathing consciousness into what I share, what I create from my heart with you. And this is an invitation to join me as I step out of the dark shamanic cave of deep transformation of my own life journey and step into the light of feeling the freedom to put words to my experience. That will hopefully inspire you to keep going. You to keep going on your most powerful journey, to keep reaching for the stars, living your dreams, liberating you from who you thought you were, and become who you always were really meant to be in this lifetime. My podcast episodes are transmissions and journeys in themselves, and I highly recommend for you to not buckle up, but instead spread your wings, trust you can fly, and come jump with me into the unknown, into the wisdom of the voice of the deep embodied feminine, who leads us into the transformational portals of the ego and spiritual death, teaches us how to rebirth ourselves and choose for life again. For she lives. And this, my friends, is why my podcast is called She Lives. The name not only came to me in a prophetic dream, but it is because I feel like I have died 1,000 deaths through life events, ceremonies, initiations, and deep surrenders to the great mystical mysteries that are beyond me. And I have had to learn the wisdom of how to choose for life again, real life, right from the core of my being. And these journeys are what I share with you. Through it all, I have met the choice point of life and death again and again, and learned how to keep choosing for love and life, even on the edges of despair. Through years of bullying, 2 narcissistic abusive marriages, a life as an empathic artist, mentor and ceremonialist, learning the ways of the priestess, shaman, and my innate indigenous Celtic heritage, herbalism, and years of studying with plant medicines, taking me into divine union, sacred sexuality, nature, magic, the mystic, and beyond, I open this podcast to discover the truth of love through it all. And I invite you to join me. See where the edges are for you, and see how consciousness can be expanded through these portals of the vibrations of love. So let's discover the ancient and the new, and the bridge of innate wisdom that ignites our blood and bones, that transports us through eons and up to this very moment of being with you, here, now. Discover the artistry of all of this, what it means to be a shamanic and visionary artist, creator, storyteller, performer, singer, writer, mentor, guide, ceremonialist, of conjuring the magic of life, being a woman. So, I hope this podcast inspires you to find new ways, paths, and choices to keep discovering the greatest expression of love that lives inside of you too. I will be real. I will share insights, thoughts, expressions, some of which I'm terrified to give liberation and voice to. And I will offer you invitations, and I will challenge you to your edges, because I desire you to be the greatest that you can be. And this means change. Do you dare to change? Do you dare enough to trust in the unknown and begin a new journey? Let the gift of your soul be given, your talents, and everything that is magnificent about you be delivered into your life, to discover the artistic masterpiece of creation that is you. The journey began at the beginning. Air was filled with blossom flowers, and river fresh with playful singing. The gift was given, presented powers, translating sounds into lines on pages, spellbound images, whispered words. A pocket full of ink and painted fizz is my ticket to ride the soaring birds. The journey becomes clearer in stages. The right train really won't take ages to find that home is where the art is. Out of the comfort zone and into the unknown. Dare to make mistakes. Dare to grow. I will come out of the comfort zone of these words I have scripted to make me feel safe. I will jump off the cliff of podcast perfectionism and into the void of the unscripted soul prophecy. Do I trust myself enough to speak my spontaneous expressions of my heart and soul with only a few bullet point thermal vortexes to lift my wings and take flight? Join me. Let's liberate the voice. She who has been suppressed for eons, vilified, witch-hunted and silenced. She who has kept secret the gift. She who defied everything to choose for love in this lifetime and to share it with you. She lives. Imagine that place where only you have been. You may have tried to bring others there, but it was simply not possible. Or is it? It's the place where you've turned from the outside in. The place that goes beyond quantified proof and logical results. A landscape where the innate is alive. Where we rewire and rewrite to thrive. Find the keys and possibilities to create new realities. A place of vision, a place that runs deep through the breath and bone, blood and the burning flame. A space where you find yourself again. A time where you go beyond anything you have ever known of yourself before. A quest to find something more. Find you. Years have passed since this journey began. A decade to complete this cycle. A lifetime to end. And eons to begin. The prophecy. As we spiral, there is no going back. We may come back around, but we are not the same. Not in the same place or time, yet we return to familiar landscapes, where this time we know even more than we did before. So, would you believe me if I told you this story was true? Could you believe in the magic of life as art? Well, we don't need all the answers right now, do we? So, let us now begin again, a fresh start, a clear vision, from the joy of the heart, coming alive in the art, play in the journey of our own creation. Come with me. Here we go. I've done it, guys. All I have now is a few bullet points, me, and the mic. So, why can it be so challenging for women to share their true voice? Constantly adjusting ourselves, constantly wanting to be liked, get approval, win friends, relationships, followers, etc., etc. So let's just not do that anymore. Let's speak the truth. Let's discover really the vibration of love and how that can change our lives. And why do I go on so much about it? And you'll discover why. And I also go on a lot about prophecy, because from my journey I have witnessed that aligning ourselves with our soul purpose, our mission, our heart, our love, means that we are doing what we came here to do. Whatever pathway you believe in to get to that point, is that, how about we reorientate however our lives have been to live in our full magnificence, So that's what I'm about. That's what this is all about. And I'm going to share with you why it has been challenging for me. And like I said, you will have your own life story that will, parts of what I'm sharing will resonate with you and inspire you to course correct or reorientate or amplify to another greater version of you. Now, one of my biggest challenges my whole life is to recover from being bullied, and being bullied so much as at a young age and through many years of my life, from sibling rivalry to at school, betrayal of friendships, in many different schools. I had to move schools several times because of bullies. And then this later translated into narcissistic abuse through two marriages and divorces. And anyone who's ever been through that and really looked at the emotional abuse that they have endured, there's so much gold in there to find. And I really look forward to sharing more about that with you, because I have dived deep into that. Now, one of the things about sharing your voice, and, this relates back to, like I said earlier, the witch hunts, the not feeling as if your voice is valued or that you can speak. Your voice is life. She lives within you, and she has a story to tell. And narcissism, bullying, wants you silenced because it doesn't dare to feel love. And everything that you are as an empath, as an amazing being of light and love and incredible creation, when you turn up and you show up as love, those dark places in people who are not able to work through the narcissism within themselves because they have been hurt, and so then they hurt hurt people. And your light, your love exposes that within them that they find really hard to accept and open their hearts. So narcissism actually is a very covert way of wanting you silenced. And I'm going to make other particular podcasts about this, because what I have discovered is so profound in getting the gold from these experiences of abuse. So, like I said, it desires love. Narcissism desires love to be destroyed, and so does bullying and all of this emotional put downs and everything's these traumas that we're not able to process. So for me, it has been 3 years since the end and the big blow up of my second marriage. And when this first started happening 3 years ago, this was in September 2020, and, the whole lockdown going on and everything. And I realized, wow, this is happening to me a second time. And I vowed that this would never happen again. And so I had to go on a really deep journey, even after already 10 years of doing women's work, inner work, personal development. I now knew that it was the biggest initiation of my life. Am I going to get through this? And also, I was at the end of being, really nice, putting up with everything, not even knowing where my boundaries were. To this level of love in relationship. And so I decided never again. And it's taken me 3 years to get my voice back. One of the biggest things that I realized right away was, when you're receiving The impact of being gaslit and flying monkeys and everybody turning it against you and it's all your fault, and being afraid to speak up because every time you do, it doesn't go down very well. So it's taken me 3 years to get my voice back and to be in the place where I realize, wow, there's a lot of power in sharing this and inspiring others who felt like they haven't had a voice to take a journey to get their voice back, because it's really important in many, many ways. So along this journey, as this started cracking open 3 years ago, I decided to go in and I decided to go deep. And for this to never happen again, I was prepared to go in and get all the wisdom from the darkest corners of my soul, so that I would never live this level of abuse again. And I wanted to find out everything and why it was happening. So I'm ready to share with you now this wisdom that I've gleaned along the way. And, I see so many struggle out there, how to find the next steps of embodying this knowledge that we find through yoga, ecstatic dance, cacao ceremonies, like all these incredible spiritual things that we can do. But how do we actually really pick the gold out of it, translate it to our life journey, connect the dots and turn it into wisdom, and this is one of my specialities. I'm a great dot connector to turn the knowledge into wisdom, because otherwise it's just other stuff that we know, and we need to get to the point where we can really feel the vibration of what it feels like to embody it. So one of the things on my journey was when I was sitting with some perhaps people who, spiritual leaders, or perhaps people might call them gurus or whatever. One of the things that kept coming up was die before you die. And this was like about 8 years ago or something. It's like, die before you die. Okay, what does that mean? Well, you want to shed who you were, and all those parts of you that you don't quite like, or those things you have to change, or the traumas you have to heal, and so that you can live again. And so then I sort of, I kept this in the back of my mind and thinking, like, how do you learn to die without losing your body? And so that you can really live again, live your soul life, and really have a chance of living who you are inside, really going for it and living that essence in yourself in this life. And letting the, she who adjusts and wants to be liked and gets approval and win friends and have relationships, but perhaps unsuccessfully, how can she be put to rest? These guises that and coping mechanisms that we create as false personas in order to cope with the trauma within our hearts, the betrayal of our hearts. And this is what I've learned, is to really master this life, death, rebirth process, the mastery of the cycles of life, and to know that it's a spiritual death. It's a rebirth, and then it's living masterfully with the guidance of your soul, so that all of this conditioning and patterns and karmic ties and traumas and whatever happens to us, all of our life stories in this life and the other lives beyond, that we are the pattern breakers. We are the pattern breakers right now. And that ends here. And now we choose to live our soul. So let's move on. The other part is, I said, why does art and creation have anything to do with this? Well, if you think about it, you're ending one creative cycle, so to speak, that did not serve, and creating a new way. And creation is creation. Creation is the flowers that grow. It's the nature. It's the animism of everyday life that you can read and feel and sense and move through. And creation is, drawing, writing, baking a cake, the way that you dress, the way that you show up to the world, the way that you express your essence, and let that be interpreted through the physical reality of our 3D reality. And all of this is creation. This is all of it is the artistry of who you are and the art of your life. And this can be translated into making music, recording your voice, into pictures and words. That can be translated into books and albums. This is like just a little bit how I work, but this is why art has got to do with everything, because art is creation itself. Art is also, this is the fire of creation. It's the same energy as sexual energy. It's the same energy as the life force energy. And creation helps you to express yourself, to be yourself, and to recreate yourself. And this is the power of creation. It's art, yes, and it is so much more. There's no excuses anymore. Like, the women who come on my year training, I bring in creation. Of course I do. It's part of it. And I say, there's no excuses. If you can't draw, if you say you can't draw, or you can't dance, and you can't do whatever it is, that is because there's a part of you that is suppressed. There's a part of you that has been told so many times when you were younger not to do it in whatever way, or you weren't good enough at it. And it's simply not true, because you are an incredible, magnificent being that if you put your hands, your golden hands of creation to anything, you can make it happen. And you do it your way. You do it your way. And you can do it today. Now, this is an immediate invitation to create something today that you have always longed to create, express. So just after you've listened to this podcast, just go ahead and do it. Make it happen. So because there's no excuses to put limitations on our creative process, then we turn the tables round on that again. It's like, okay, there's actually a problem if you're not creating. And this is where, like, the expression of the voice coming back, the confidence that can come back is like, wow, if I'm not creating, there's actually some blockage in me. There's some life force blockage. There's some sexual, sensual, energetic blockage within my system, within my chakras, within how I am functioning and showing up to life. So here's the other thing to look at. Where is there an energy surge within you that wants an outlet of expression and creation? So this podcast is about the story behind the story, and this is why art and sensuality have something to do about it, because she lives, she who wants to be expressed and desired, she lives inside of you, and we're giving space for her to come alive. Everyone has their own life story, their life-changing journeys, and everyone has a story behind how they show up, whether it's in their lives, in their work, or to themselves. And this is a chance to expose the things, so to bring them into the light. And so I'm going to share a piece of my story, and inspire you about how powerful your life story is. So this is a piece of my story. I have always been an artist and a visionary, and I realized that it's like it grabbed me and I've not been able to escape it at all, despite the bullying and despite the suppression and the emotional abuse. It's never ever been able I've never been able to leave it. And this is why I find, I am inspired by my own life journey, in the fact that it's like whenever things got really dark, there was still a call from the art, from the visions, to keep finding that place back to the heart the whole way through. So I grew up as an atheist in a scientific and business orientated household in the 80s and 90s. I was brought up well, but there was always this feeling inside of me of not being understood and not being emotionally valued, and a lot of shame around expressing strong emotions and believing in anything esoteric. So because I didn't understand the difference between spirituality and religion, and growing up in an atheist household, there was only this option, like anything other than atheism was religion, and religion was, not the way according to my upbringing. And yet I felt that there was something else. There was some other feeling. And I guess that is the spiritual, the esoteric, the mystic, the psychic realms that have always been with me throughout my whole life. So because of this, and this not being acknowledged as a child, this led to a deep lack of self-worth already, not being understood. And essentially, in a way, I felt that I was led to not believe in my soul, because everything that I brought up that was like highly emotional or esoteric was not essentially valid. It's not logical, it's not particularly scientific, even though things are being proved now, about the quantum world, etc. So this has had a profound impact on me and my belief in myself, and attracting people who confirmed to me that I was not worth it, through narcissistic abusive marriages, for example. So this journey of, particularly the last 12, 15 years since I came out of my first marriage, has really been a journey back to my soul. And I've remembered some of the things along the way, like as a young teenager, one day I perceived that everybody was asleep. And this continued for a whole day. And I went to school and I really felt that everybody was asleep. And this was in, this must have been in the 90s. And it was this incredible feeling of, I'm awake, I'm existing in a different realm, and everybody else is asleep and nobody knows. And I had no idea how these things worked. And I was like, I actually said to my mum at the end of the day, I said, I feel like everybody's asleep. I feel like everybody's dead. They're not here. And I asked my mum about it. And of course, I got a reply along the lines of, don't be silly. Of course, everybody's alive. And these things led to me shutting down. So it's like, okay, I'm the one who's perceiving this in, not the right way. And so there was this this shutdown of, let's say, my psychic abilities, my spirituality, etc. And also, I was also at that time as a teenager having these experiences where every night I would close my eyes and I would just go off into the universe. This was also another experience that I found really incredibly difficult, because I was told that when you die, nothing else exists. And so there was this terrifying edge of, oh my goodness, I'm traveling somewhere else and I'm going through the stars and I'm doing all of this. Like, why is this happening? I feel like I'm going to die. And there's, many different ways that I've looked at this now. It's part of me feeling like I wasn't belonging and wanting to return back home, maybe to my cosmic family, return to my soul place. And also, it's like we talk about when we're healing the traumas inside, it's, that we exit our body because we're not safe to be here in life. And this also resonates, is that it was like, I was told that, when you die, there's nothing else. And so I felt, wow, I'm not safe to be here. And yet I'm going into the universe. So actually what I did to stop myself going into the universe, another shutdown of my visionary abilities was I created a castle halfway, and I locked myself in it. So every time I started going out to the universe, I would stop and I'd go to this castle and I'd kind of lock myself in it. And as I've been working, doing women's work and personal development work, like realizing, wow, these are the different places in which I've locked myself in, and now it's time to liberate myself. So finding these places that we've locked ourselves away in and creating an environment, a new environment, soul-led, where we can unlock ourselves. So all of this, kind of contributed towards me not feeling good enough and being bullied at school. And, I hid myself away in my art, and, I was like the best in the whole school at art. And I was even... getting like the piss taken out of me because of that. And that was really hard, but that was like the one thing that I could go into, and realizing now, like, wow, what a gift that is, because art keeps us connected to the expression of our soul, because we go inside and we create and we manifest that on the outside. So it's been something that's really allowed me to continue living, I think, So anyway, like I said to you, like all this bullying at school, etc. And I went to university and got a degree in the arts, in visual and performing arts. And then I was like, I have no idea. I have no idea how to do this. Like, how do you do life? So I ended up going to France for a year out, and ended up staying there for 2 years. And ended up meeting somebody, ended up getting married, ended up buying a place in the Alps, ended up feeling really controlled and receiving death threats, and almost lost everything. And then I ended up getting all my stuff in a car and driving on my own for 2 days back to England and never returning. So in a nutshell, there's all of this, when you're not able to live the truth of who you are, the shutdown of the inner guidance and the just going along with things, trying to be a good woman, trying to be a good girlfriend, figure out how to have relationships, end up in these marriages and losing everything. And then like, wow, that was big already. And at that time, I didn't know what narcissistic abuse was. I didn't know anything like that. And I didn't necessarily get the full emotional support that I needed. And I sort of went into a kind of 5-year depressed coma where I did some crazy random things, like going to Tanzania and getting a qualification in tropical habitat conservation and advanced diving. I mean, that was great, going on safari and traveling different places in the world, and then like ending up on a desert island alone in the Philippines and realizing, goodness me, I'm here on this desert island and nobody has a clue. We can run away from ourselves and go to all of these different places in different corners of the earth, but we will never escape what really truly wants to be seen. And of course there was other avoidance mechanisms as well, of like drinking too much wine, and just at that time there was really no spiritual awareness to guide me. But something started shifting, because like I gave up TV. So this is like probably 15 years ago now, giving up television. And somebody told me one day, as I joined some creative circles in my area, somebody started talking to me about vibration, and I've never heard of this before. And they said, yes, everybody has a vibration. And I started going to yoga. And then I started feeling that vibration, becoming aware of that, particularly when I was having an afternoon nap. I mean, afternoon naps, aren't they great for just really feeling that high vibe? Highly recommended. So I started discovering and following that thread of vibration in my body. What does that feel like? What does that feel like when I'm doing something that feels good or not good? And this was the only thing that was kind of guiding me as I was kind of fumbling around for 5 years. And then the turning point came to me, whereas, like I said, after about 5 years, one morning I woke up and I was staring at the ceiling and completely in this kind of null and void, depressive state. And I said, I think this is probably about 12 years ago now, something like this. And this voice came over me of what would I regret not doing if I were to die today, if I were to die now. And it was the first time that I really felt that intuitive voice, some other voice that was looking after me, calling to me, speaking through me. And then I realized, I heard this other voice coming that I would regret, if I was to die today, I would regret not making my art my way, not expressing myself my way, and not being able to be who I truly am. And this all of a sudden became the mission. It gave me power because I had felt that inner calling and I had given an answer, and it was all of a sudden, well, now get to it kind of energy. And so I then set myself on a mission, and I applied to exhibitions in the area. I applied to work in the arts, self-employed in various different ways. And I actually got everything that I applied for. It's because I was on target and I was fulfilling that mission. And so I ended up getting into this exhibition. And then they were interested in the work that I was doing and how I was doing it, because I was visual artist, but I was also performing into it. And I was a performance artist, but I was also connecting. My story was connecting with the people. And it wasn't about me being high art. It was about me bringing a message through about connection. I didn't know this at the time, but when I read back through all of the art that I've created, it's exactly what I'm speaking about. It's like, how do we return to this intrinsic connection of our soul? And so this was at Lighthouse in Poole, the largest arts centre outside of London. And they then said to me, look, we're really interested in what you're doing. What you're doing is different, and we would really love you to be artist in residence. So then I was like, wow, this is amazing. They are giving me free rein to express myself. And this led to exhibitions and art explosions and discoveries and explorations. This led to me making music and collaborating with various different kinds of artists, and being asked to give public speaking, receiving commissions and funding, and leading art award-winning mentorships for university students. So all of this rolled off the back of me hearing this voice. What would I do if I was to die today? And me saying, I need to express myself in that way. So what I want to share is that, and some of the music that you've heard on the opening of this podcast is from some of that work that came out of that time. And this was about 10 years ago. And why am I sharing work from that time ago is because, like I said to you, 3 years ago, I got struck by a second dose of narcissistic abusive relationship in my second marriage, and there's all of this gap time that happens in between. So I'm coming back to honoring my journey right now, and this is why I'm sharing it with you. So let's go back to when I was making all this art and going wild and crazy and purging my soul from having said yes to that soul calling within me. So I did several exhibitions at Lighthouse, and they were all really interactive and involving lots of other artists, which was so amazing. It's like, you know, when we work together, we can really elevate together. And one of the exhibitions I had was called the Monochronium, and I was in such a process of purging, but I didn't know at the time. And they were saying to me, oh yeah, just create, just do exactly what you want, and just start making things. And they were so supportive of my creative process. It was amazing. And I started by doing these black and white drawings, and they said, do you want to go into some of the rehearsals for the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra? So I did that. I went and sat in the rehearsals, and I started illustrating to the sound and the music of the orchestra, all just with this white paper and black pen, and just like letting the music move through me as I was creating these illustrations. And this became part of the exhibition. And I used that energy to just create through every single collaboration that happened. And I just let it purge out of me. Pictures, words, sound, installations, you name it. We did it. And created this really amazingly powerful exhibition that was completely immersive, and it involved the visual arts and the performing arts. Now, on the opening evening, there was about 200 people who were going to arrive for a private view, and I had a moment in the gallery on my own as I was walking through some of the installations, and I realised, oh my goodness, my soul is on the walls here. I hope nobody notices. It was like the first moment of silence that I had because I'd been in such a process of creation that I hadn't even realised. And I looked on the walls and I felt almost scared that people were going to come in and see my soul because it was also the first time that I'd seen it. And I thought, wow, I hope nobody notices. And then I kind of relaxed into that. And then I made a wish because I realised, wow, I knew that, although I didn't know about narcissistic abuse at that time, I knew that some women had never got out of abusive relationships. And I had, because it had taken me 5 years from going from not being able to speak to a shop assistant and now welcoming all these people who were going to come to a private view of my art on the walls. And I realised, wow, I made an incredible jump. How did I do that? So I made a wish in my art, like standing in the middle of my art in this gallery, making this wish that I could find out what it was, like from the core of my being. How could I make that transition so that I could come out and do this, put my art on the walls and express myself? How could I do that? And I knew that it wasn't about me becoming an art teacher or a singing teacher or a performance teacher for anybody to teach them how to do it. There was something else. There was this connection between the body and the soul and the expression and the art. And this is how I'm working now, and this is how I'm working with women now, because in making that connection, we're fusing the spirituality, we're fusing the soul, we're fusing the pure creative potential and power and bringing it into reality and making it real, and so that the art speaks through us and tells us and guides us the way. And it's, this is a shamanic way. This is a pathway, where your life starts becoming an animate, animism, that it becomes messages for you. So I made this wish in the gallery, and it's kind of led me on a wild 10-year journey, including meeting my ex, selling all my stuff, giving up my career, giving up everything in England and everything that was so magnificently working for me in terms of my clientele, my connections, and getting well known in the area for my art and my work, just selling everything, cutting my hair off, buying a van, and moving to Portugal, all for the promise of love. And through this process, I also went into priestess training in love and sacred sexuality, shamanic initiation, somatic healing, EFT therapy, ecstatic dance, biodancer, tantra, plant medicines, etc. All of this has been part of this 10-year journey to figure out what has been happening. And essentially it comes back to what I was speaking about at the beginning. This soul calling led me on a journey to figure out, how do I bring that esoteric part of me? How do I bring that psychic, that visionary part of me and feel, yeah, that is part of me. I'm amazing. And I'm doing this, and it is part of me. And I believe in myself. I believe in my soul. Because I am more than just this life. I am more than just this life. So this is what this 10-year journey has been on. And so I moved out of England and moved to Holland. And then, I got into, I just gave up everything for this promise of love. And there was things that weren't right, and I went against my intuition. And I felt, even when I moved to Portugal, I remember being in that van that we nicknamed the Tornado. It's like, wow. Yeah, it really was a tornado that kind of just wrecked everything. And because I didn't know what love was, I was tempted in by the love bombing and the luring in that the covert narcissistic behavior does. And I know my part that I played in that now, and I know the other part that I was lured into playing. So this is another PowerPoint of knowing how it works when you go through difficult situations. So I moved to Holland. My first marriage was in France, so I've lived a lot, most of my time on the continent of Europe, even though I am British. And let's just kind of cut to the chase now with the story. So 3 years ago, whilst I was drawing a picture, actually, as part of my oracle deck, I was a woman who was a doula, a life giver, a birthing lady, beautiful, powerful woman who works in a ceremonial way. And I, on my journey, started creating this oracle deck, which I'll tell you more about at another point. But as I was drawing her picture, my ex came in and said he wanted to stop the fight and that the marriage was over. And this was after, years of drama. Oh, goodness me, I'm glad I can laugh about it now. So anyway, wanted to stop the fight, but actually it was just the beginning of the fight. Because whenever you are faced with somebody who's not able to deal with their own behavior, when you come into these situations of separation in relationship, everything gets exposed. And actually the fighting continued. So it was actually a lie, because it didn't stop the fight at all. And, you have to go through that breaking apart process. And for 3 months, I was ignited into this ultra survival mode. And this was when lockdown was kicking off, September 2020. And when I look back at it now, it's like the most extraordinary time, because I'd been doing all of this women's work before that I told you, all the trainings and etc. into personal development. I knew that now was the time that I had to put into practice everything that I had learned. And I lost my home, my ability to earn money. Everything just fell away. Everybody from that life were buying into his side of the story. And that's okay. Absolutely fine with that now. But at the time, it was very difficult to realize, wow, I'm losing everything. So actually, when this started happening, I was being conscious, very, very conscious at the time of what was happening, and realized I've got to go in, I'm doing this. And this warrioress ignited in me like I have never known before. Wasn't particularly great on my nervous system because I was getting all of the physical symptoms of having received narcissistic abuse. So I've been working through all of that. But I realized that it was me now, and I was going to go in and I was going to find it. And I started realizing the energy that I was being presented with from my old life, let's say, was the energy of it was all my fault and they are taking me down. And I realized, like, if I am fighting for love so much, how can it be my fault? How can it be my fault? I didn't get it. And so I realized, you know what? I have a choice now. Either I can believe in others in that all of this was my problem and it is my fault, or I can really choose to fight for my heart right now. And there was nothing left, and nothing had any meaning, because when you've built your life, I did this in France once, I built it and it all fell away. And then I built it again and I gave it away for love. And then I tried to build it again. And then it was just thrown away and thrown back in my face. And I decided that, wow, okay, if this energy of me being wrong is taking me down, which is like from the people of my old life wanted to take me down, I realized, okay, I'm in this, I'm doing this work, and yeah, we're going to go deep. You want to take me down? I'm going to go down. I am getting the sledgehammer. Let me take the sledgehammer to my life. And let's smash it apart. Let's do this. So I went in and I smashed my old life, my old thought systems. I smashed everything. And I had to trust that in now living in a cabin on the edge of a woods in the middle of nowhere in the Netherlands, with only a very few people who were still believing in me at that point, because everybody, was going into their own kind of version of crisis with the lockdown, that I was the only one now who was going to hold me. And I had to really trust that I was going to do that. So this ignited this unbelievable amount of power in me to listen to my soul, because I had nothing left. So as you can imagine, all the traumas were arising, all the things that wanted to be seen were arising, and I knew that I had to summon my priestess powers, my shamanic powers. I had to summon every piece of force that I could have within me to let everything that was not serving this path of living love, living like my soul, and I was just not going to let my heart die, even though I was so triggered by immense trauma. And so it was really like this breaking point where I was kind of losing my mind for 3 months, and I was really hitting the point of the die before you die. I was like, okay, this is it. This is it. I'm dying. I'm actually in the die before you die phase. I'm actually there. And, dark night of the soul, whatever. And I knew, okay, I'm going to move through this properly. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to move out of Holland. I'm not going to get a job. I'm not going to figure it out, get everything back on track. I'm going to go through this. I'm going to go deep, and I'm going to get every bit of gold I can. And in this magical space of the broken heart, incredible things happen. And I'm going to be bringing more and more of this wisdom to you in this podcast. Through betrayal and grief, wishes can be planted in those cracks that break open that which has been guarding the heart. And in those dark nights alone, choices can be made. And everything came to light as my marriage dissolved. And because I was losing everything, timelines were cracking open. More spirituality than I had ever given credit was opening in me and through me. And even though I'd done priestess training, I'd always had these judgments about being a priestess and goddess and all of that. I was like, because I've been so programmed with atheism to not believe in anything, I found it so hard to believe in the magic that was working through me. And so these timelines were cracking open, and even, lots of people say, oh yeah, I'm Isis, I'm Mary Magdalene, etc. I was like, Isis and Mary Magdalene were appearing before me and telling me how the timelines of this particular time on the planet were cracking open. And I was like, yeah, really? Okay. And it was unbelievable. And I will be talking about this more as well. All of these, I don't know, gods and goddesses and timelines and eras and Lemuria and Atlantis, and all of this was presenting itself to me and showing me how it works and how it's coming to this choice point in humanity right now for us to awaken and to choose love. And I know, even when I'm talking about this, it's like, really? Really? You're just crazy talking about this. Well, I don't know. It happened to me. So I've got to believe it. And so essentially through the betrayal of my relationship, of friends, of everybody there, like everybody, through this deep betrayal of the heart and realizing, right, wow, how low does life want to take me? And me going, yeah, okay, I want to go even lower. Let's go in there and get this. I was able to start believing in my soul again and retrieving my soul and calling myself back home and facilitating myself through this life, death, life process, and started realizing wow, I want to die. I want to die. Okay, that's not me. I'm not going to kill myself. I am dying, but I am staying in my body. It's these old parts of me that want to transform. And learning, mastering how to do that. This is why I'm such an advocate and such a master of cyclical living, because yes, we can follow the seasons and the moon and everything, but what about if we embody it? What about if we get deeper and we actually embody that wisdom? It transports us and transforms us into realms of understanding ourselves that we would never be able to be conscious of before, because our body is working in synergy with our soul to guide us in a very, very profound way. And when you come into emotional crisis or life crises, you can learn how to start activating that so that everything that happens becomes an opportunity for parts of your ego to die rather than you having to sacrifice your parts of life. And you coming into a greater version of your life. This is why I talk about change. Are you ready for change? Are you ready to come out of your comfort zone? Not everything has to be so dramatic, I think, as I have experienced it. I think it's part of my soul journey to really go very, very deep with all of this. But everybody has a way. Everybody has a way. So anyway, some things were happening. For example, whilst all of this was happening, I was being faced with this choosing for life or death and trying to figure out how that was, and going into the deep Samhain energies of the crone and the death energies of autumn into winter of 2020. In this cabin by the woods in the middle of nowhere, on my own, on my friend's land. Very grateful to them that I could be there. Because part of me did decide, yeah, we're going in and we're doing this. So I gave myself the opportunity to not do it normally, I was also given the message from deep within to stay in it. And that's why I didn't go back to England immediately. So anyway, there were some things that happened that gave me choice points. And one was, I can remember, is I woke up in the middle of the night and there was a storm going, and it was so black outside, and I could feel the rain pouring down and tapping on the roof. And I walked through from the bedroom, through the sort of kitchenette area to the living area, and it felt like I was rocking. I was on a ship, and I realised that I was now at sea. I realised that I was sailing a new course. I was alone, and I was alone at sea in the middle of the night. And I think because of the activation and the trauma of my nervous system, it was really igniting something so profound in me. And I was able to voyage through what my body was telling me, and it was showing me that I was on this boat, which was my life, my body, my vessel. And I had left the old life, and now I was alone, and I was setting sail on a new voyage. And I was the master of the ship. I was the master of my life, my body. And I fell to my knees, and I realized in that moment, because I'd known from all of the work that I'd been doing, I had a choice of the woman that I was going to become. I had a choice to either close my heart off, and I could see the trajectory that would lead me to, that I hook on to this betrayal, that I never let it go, and I realized, wow, that would lead me to bitterness, that would lead me to becoming an off with your head queen, a bitter woman, an old crone who would never be able to relate to men or people again. Or I had the chance to open my heart and let everything move through the heart and move through love. And I realized I had no choice, because if I was to try and go in the middle, I would still be choosing for bitterness and becoming an old bitter woman, shut off from life and shutting my heart off. So I had to go full out. It was either shut your heart down or keep your heart open. And I wasn't going to shut my heart down, because I also realised if I was to become a bitter old woman, I would shut my heart down to the masculine, to friends. But everything that I had worked towards from that wish in the gallery of how do I share this with women would become null and void in that moment if I decided to shut down. I would not be able to do my writing and my books, do my courses and my trainings for women. All of my artwork would be completely null and void, because I would be a fake and a phony. So in that moment, I realised I have to fully go out, full out, choose for love, and let love destroy me instead of letting the betrayal and the pain destroy me. So that cracked me open even more as I made this vow to let everything move through me as an expression of love. And so then I realized, okay, I'm on my ship. And I realized, okay, universe, if you're showing me, that everything I have to keep my heart open to the masculine in the midst of this betrayal. Well, if I am to keep my heart open to the masculine, and you are showing me that not only part of my work is the work with women, but it is with men and divine union and sacred union as well, because at that time I was receiving all this coding of divine union that was coming through the splitting of the timelines. I was really like holding my fist up to the universe and saying, if my part of my soul mission is divine union and sacred union, like, bring me a lion-hearted man, because I could see the essence of the black lion, toxic lion energy, the tyrant king energy that was happening in my ex, and I could start to see the dynamics of how this was all playing out. So I said, okay, I've been led by this false light of this lion, this black lion. I need a lion-hearted man. Bring me a lion-hearted man, universe. And in the next couple of weeks, this man from England turns up on my door. He's a friend of the people who are living there, and we hold ceremony together. Because he's invited to come in for us to have ceremony over the winter solstice. And he says, "Oh yeah, I've been told by shamans in Peru that I have a lion heart." And I'm sitting there like, oh my goodness, and kind of not believing that this is true. And this is why I really believe that, if you choose for love and if you choose to follow the soul path, miracles can happen. So this lion-hearted man appeared into my life, and he saw from how I was leading the ceremony that there was something else that I was tapping into, some other kind of wisdom, some other kind of healing realm that I was able to deliver in our ceremony. And he said to me, "I think I need to stay close to you." And he also said to me, when I was sharing with him what was happening with me, he said, "That is narcissistic abuse." And I know, because I am healing from being a narcissist myself. This is what he said to me. And there was part of me which was like, oh my God, don't know what to do with that information. But there was my body, which it's like a bomb dropped in my body, and my body knew that this was true, that I was receiving narcissistic abuse. Everything made sense. And I remember it so clearly because my body started to relax into that truth. And it was only then that I could start the healing journey. And that was 3 years ago. And I've continued working with this man because he wanted the pieces of the puzzle from the deep feminine. And here I was with a guy saying that he was recognizing his own narcissistic behavior, and him telling me that I was receiving narcissistic abuse. And there was this logical part of me which wanted to be like, well, yeah, well, I don't want anything to do with you. But then he was coming and saying, I need to learn from you because I'm on a healing journey. And I realized there was only one way in which I was going to heal what was happening to me and receiving all of this abuse, was if I would lean into his wisdom, get all of the insider information from somebody who was willing to take his own healing journey, because I needed that information from him so that I could heal myself. So we then went on this incredibly wild, incredibly powerful journey through lockdown, every day, speaking, unpacking every single toxic behavior between man and woman as friends. We were friends and we did this. And we held ceremonies together online during lockdown. And it was the most incredible time of my life, even though I was absolutely breaking apart my reality and discovering so many things that I needed to know in order to truly heal myself. And through this process, we unpacked and we destroyed so many illusions around how men and women relate, because we were able to do this because we're so devoted to our own healing journeys, and we're so devoted to discovering the truth. And because we were friends, there wasn't any of that romantic mess that got in between. So we were able to get to the truth. And we worked in a deeply shamanic way. We worked in a way which was allowing us to resonate and bring our soul and our intuition alive. And it was like, traversing from who I had created myself to be to who I am today. And this man really saved my life. And through this process, we have fallen in love, and we have evolved our friendship into the most profound relationship I could ever have imagined possible with anyone. So this is a really, really profound healing. And I'll probably talk more about it because it is even unbelievable to me what we have moved through in terms of how men and women relate. And so he has helped me through this darkness find and mirror the love within me. And he has helped me fulfill my prophecy of learning, what is this journey of love? You know, when I was back in the gallery, like, what is this journey of love? What is this journey of creation? And that he comes into my life, and for the last 3 years, working in this way together, he finally brought me home. And it's, of course, not just him. It's not like, you know, some kind of knight in shining armor. It's from 2 years working profoundly, shamanically together, allowing our innate consciousness to come in through deeply listening to all of the collective movements that have been happening collectively, translating that into the highest level of wisdom to ignite our lives in the best way that we can right now. And then I finally got the go-ahead from Spirit to leave Holland, and he brought me home, you know, and this is like a twin flame, joint purpose life together, because we destroyed each other. We destroyed each other and we built each other up again, and we're building each other up again. And he has been helping me share my voice, believe in myself, and most importantly, giving value to the soul and the spirit and the artistry that I am. So I'm exceedingly grateful for that. And exceedingly grateful to understand this process of love and life and creation, and bringing me back in line with my purpose after risking it all, and bringing the artistry value again, and looking back at this journey and realizing, wow, it's rich, it's rich, it's so rich. And this journey that I have been on, I've been documenting it through illustration and writing the whole time. And so I'm making an oracle deck at the moment, coming to the end of that at the moment in the illustrations. And hopefully it will be out this year. And it's a powerful oracle deck because it has followed a life story of reclaiming the vision, embodying the vision, embodying the soul. And every single illustration in it, every single card, I have allowed myself to embody and learn the wisdom as the mirrors of every woman and man that is in the oracle deck that I have used as a basis of inspiration. So, yeah, the vision is being created, the messages are being translated, and new life is forming. So, in this January of 2024, I have enough life force again to be delivering my voice, sharing my voice, and not being afraid of who I am or what I have done or how I have done it. And knowing that actually I am one of the pioneers. I am one of the pioneers of this time who is really allowing everything to fall away and becoming and living through this new vibration of consciousness that is here and is available. And she who lives in line with her soul purpose, is alive in me. She's alive in me. And I will give her the best I can in every moment of every day. And this is my invitation to you as well. And it's to let this artistry of life and love initiate us back into life once we have dared to walk the path of transformation. So I think we are going to start wrapping it up for now. And ultimately, everything that I share here is an expression of life as art, and art is life, and ways in which bringing the soul to the forefront of making decisions and guidance. And no matter where you are on your journey, your own soulful journey of evolution, there's always a way through. And for me, it has been returning to my roots, igniting my indigenous shamanism within me, declaring that I am here, I am part of creation, that the prophecy, like the rainbow prophecy, is true. The prophecies of our ancestors, those who know how to connect with the land and the stars, it's true. And I've seen it, and I've experienced it, and I've had to move through it firsthand so that I could choose for my life again. And it's the greatest guide. That life of soul and love that lives within you. Igniting the source of gold of your magnificence, your soul gifts, journeying through the cycles of life in every day, every month, every year, every life, deeply embodying what it means to feel the blood running through your veins, to feel the resonance vibrating through your bones, going beyond any methods that you have been taught, breaking the boundaries, becoming a pattern breaker, where you become the method, and letting your own artistry and your expression be a guiding light for you to open up to your own unique expression. So I'll be highlighting and sharing more of the juicy parts of my story and other wisdom things that are just magical as we journey deeper into me creating more podcasts and sharing this with you. I will also be bringing in some guests and look forward to exploring in more depth and getting in deeper to these juicy topics. So for now, I'm wishing you deep love. Listen to your intuition, listen to your soul, and feel the vibration that is calling you within to live even greater than you are today. So much love. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast today. May you live your magnificence today and beyond. Lots of love, and see you soon for another episode of She Lives.